My phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a text from Mom. Abu er navragiviangia debuo o uras for yo urand Condo. O il beat yo u. Sistars pirwas er il milisto e. I stared at it for a long time, the words echoing louder than the notification sound. I didn't argue. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Not because I agreed, but because I knew arguing would accomplish nothing. Mom had always had a way of dismissing me, of turning family gatherings into an invisible measure of whose accomplishments mattered. And apparently, this time, my humble little condo didn't. I sank into the couch, letting the message sink into my chest like a stone. My sister, always perfect, always in the spotlight. She had just graduated from her master's program, and of course, that counted as a milestone worthy of the family's attention. I, on the other hand, had quietly built a life that even I hadn't made noise about. I had worked tirelessly. Late nights filled with endless spreadsheets, client calls, design plans, and deadlines. And yet, in the family's eyes, I was still the child who's doing fine. But let's not bother making a fuss. A small, bitter laugh escaped me. I remembered last year's Christmas dinner, when I had mentioned a promotion. Mom had nodded politely, barely glancing at me, then turned to my sister and her accomplishments in the same breath, practically applauding her every move. I had smiled, swallowed the sting, and kept my excitement to myself. That had become my strategy, no complaints, no fights. Just quietly building my own empire, while the family danced around each other's lives, like performers at a rehearsal. I thought about my condo, the one Mom had dismissed so easily. I hadn't wanted to brag. Not yet. To the outside world, or at least to my family, it looked modest and sleek. Minimalist space with understated furniture and carefully curated art. The kind of place anyone could rent or own. Nothing flashy, nothing to make people jealous. But behind those doors, behind the neutral walls, was my life's work, the result of years of planning, saving, risking, and believing I could rise above the low expectations cast on me. I pictured it, vividly. Glass walls letting sunlight flood in over polished floors. A kitchen that could have been pulled from a magazine. A living room designed to make people pause and catch their breath. Upstairs, the bedrooms were sanctuaries, the master's suite practically a private hotel. Every corner, every detail, spoke of success, sophistication, and autonomy. And no one in my family had a clue. Not yet. My phone buzzed again, this time a different message. Seriously, we're not coming. Don't take it personally. We'll see you at Christmas maybe. I set the phone down and let the quiet wash over me. The message wasn't just a rejection of my invite. It was another reminder of my place in the family hierarchy. They didn't see me. They hadn't seen me in years. And yet, the thought that flickered in my chest wasn't just hurt. It was determination. I smiled faintly, almost to myself. If they wanted to dismiss me, fine. If they wanted to pretend my life wasn't as significant as my sister's, that was their choice. But they hadn't seen everything. They hadn't seen the late nights, the sacrifices, the small victories that no one applauded. And one day, they would. I leaned back against the couch, letting the quiet turn into a plan forming in my mind. No shouting, no anger, no confrontation. Just patience. Just the right moment. And when that moment came, when the world saw what I had created, they wouldn't be able to ignore me. And maybe, just maybe, that would be the sweetest revenge. They thought my condo was modest. They thought I lived a quiet, unremarkable life, the kind that didn't merit 2 hours of their time. And that was exactly how I wanted it. Every detail I'd shared with them about my condo had been calculated. A single Instagram post of a tastefully arranged sofa. A casual comment about a small balcony. Photos of a kitchen that looked more like a coffee table, snapshot than a magazine spread. All designed to keep them at arm's length, to keep my true life hidden from those who never seemed to notice. Because the truth was far, far more extravagant. The condo was a facade. Behind the unassuming exterior, tucked in the hills of the city, sprawled a 5.2 million modern estate, a masterpiece of design, architecture, and vision. Every corner of that house told a story of meticulous planning, of ambition that refused to be ignored. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls offered panoramic views of the skyline, while sleek, polished marble reflected the sunlight like liquid silver. The living room wasn't just a space, it was an experience. The furniture, imported from artisans across Europe, was carefully selected to complement a curated collection of contemporary art that most people could only dream of owning. The kitchen alone could have been the centerpiece of a luxury magazine. Stainless steel appliances gleamed, hidden compartments kept surfaces clutter-free, and a wine cellar beneath the floor could house hundreds of bottles, each one a token of quiet celebration. Upstairs, bedrooms were private retreats, each with custom lighting, bespoke furniture, and panoramic terraces that overlooked the city below. And then there was the master suite, a sanctuary in every sense, complete with a spa-like bath, private balcony, and a dressing room that could have been its own boutique. But none of that mattered to my family yet. They didn't know. And I intended to keep it that way until the time was perfect. Months earlier, I had quietly contacted a production team for a national TV show about extraordinary homes. I didn't want fame for its own sake. I wanted recognition, a form of validation that could not be ignored. That couldn't be brushed off with a dismissive text. The producers had fallen in love with the estate immediately, raving about its design, innovation, and sheer audacity. I agreed to let them film, careful to schedule it for a time when the episode could air without any prior warning to my family. Meanwhile, I continued to feed the illusion of the modest condo. I'd post pictures of a cozy living room with a single, unremarkable chair. I'd mention taking walks to the corner cafe. I made them believe I was living a quiet, unassuming life, an almost laughable contrast to the reality behind those doors. And all the while, I could feel the tension building in my chest. Every ignored text, every dismissive comment, every "we'll be at your sister's party instead," added fuel to a fire that I hadn't realized was burning so brightly inside me. I didn't crave revenge in a bitter way. It was deeper than that. It was about proving, finally and undeniably, that I had always been capable, that my accomplishments had always been real, even when they refused to see them. The day of the filming arrived, and I walked through my estate with a calm, almost meditative precision. The camera crew moved like shadows, capturing every detail I had agonized over for months. They marveled at the glass walls, the hidden doors, the artwork, and the architectural features that turned ordinary spaces into breathtaking experiences. I smiled quietly to myself. Soon my family would see it all, and there would be no excuse. No misunderstanding, no way for them to continue ignoring me. Later, as the episode went into post-production, I leaned back in my favorite chair, the one they thought was just another piece of furniture, and let the anticipation settle over me like a warm blanket. I had built something extraordinary. And soon, very soon, the world, and more importantly, the family who had dismissed me, would see it too. They wouldn't be able to stop calling. The night the episode aired, I sat in my living room, pretending to scroll through emails while my heart thrummed like a bass drum. It wasn't nervousness exactly, more a heady mixture of anticipation, satisfaction, and a touch of apprehension. For years, I had existed in the shadows of my family's expectations, quietly building a life that no one seemed to notice. Tonight everything would change. Tonight they would see. The opening shot of the episode rolled across the screen. A sleek aerial view of my estate perched above the city, glass walls reflecting the sun, as if the house itself were alive. My phone, sitting face up on the coffee table, began to buzz with notifications. I ignored them, let the moment hit them all at once. The camera moved inside, sweeping through the polished floors, the art, lined walls, the sunlit rooms that I had spent years perfecting. The narrator's voice, warm and admiring, described the home as a modern marvel, an architectural masterpiece that blends luxury, innovation, and personal vision. Every word felt like a small victory, every frame a subtle reminder that I had always been capable of far more than anyone had given me credit for. Then came the living room, with its panoramic windows and the custom-designed furniture I had agonized over selecting. A slow pan revealed the kitchen, gleaming appliances, a hidden wine cellar, a marble island that caught the light just right. Upstairs, the camera captured the master suite, private balcony, and spa-like bath. I leaned back, letting a smile curl over my lips. Every detail, every element of my life they had overlooked, was now on display for the world, and for them. Within minutes, my phone exploded. Texts, calls, missed calls. I picked up the first one. It was Mom. Her voice trembled. I didn't realize is this yours?" Her words, faltering and amazed, carried a tone I had never heard directed at me before, genuine awe. "It is," I said simply. My voice calm but firm. "I wanted you to see it. All of it." There was a pause, a stunned silence on the other end. We thought. We didn't know. We thought it was just a condo." I smiled, not cruelly, but with quiet satisfaction. "You never asked, and you never looked closely enough. But it's real. Every bit of it." The calls didn't stop. My sister, always so composed, sounded flustered and unsure. I didn't think you'd. This is incredible." "How did we not know?" "Because you weren't paying attention," I replied, letting the truth sink in. "I've been building this life quietly, on my own. And now you can see it." As the episode continued, I noticed the notifications stacking higher, each one a testament to the shockwaves radiating from my family. Friends began calling. Neighbors texted. Even distant relatives sent messages. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of recognition. The kind that wasn't forced, that couldn't be ignored or dismissed. And yet, beneath the satisfaction, a deeper emotion lingered. It wasn't just revenge, it was validation. Proof that my years of effort, my sacrifices, and my careful planning had not gone unnoticed. Not by the world, and certainly not by me. I had achieved something extraordinary, and finally, it could no longer be minimized or belittled. By the end of the night, the calls had slowed, but the impact lingered. Mom left a voicemail, voice shaky and tinged with guilt. My sister texted a series of emojis I interpreted as stunned admiration. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't need to. The message had already been sent. The lesson had been delivered. I leaned back in my chair, letting the adrenaline ebb. Revenge, I realized, wasn't about making them suffer. It was about showing them the truth in a way that couldn't be denied. I had done it, quietly, elegantly, without confrontation, without anger. Just patience, persistence, and timing. And for the first time in years, I felt truly seen. The days after the episode aired were a blur of phone calls, texts, and unexpected visitors. My phone never stopped ringing. Each notification a reminder that the world, and my family, had finally taken notice. But the initial thrill of vindication had begun to fade, leaving me with a quieter, more complicated emotion. Revenge had been satisfying, yes, but now I realized that recognition alone wasn't enough to heal the wounds of years of dismissal. Mom's voice on the next call was shaky, uncertain, carrying both awe and guilt. I just don't know what to say. We've never. You don't have to say anything, I interrupted gently. I just want you to understand. I've built this life quietly because that's how I've always worked. I didn't need your approval. But I do need acknowledgement that I've always deserved it. There was silence on the other end, and then a small, almost inaudible, "I'm sorry." The apology wasn't perfect. It wasn't sweeping or dramatic, but it was a start. For the first time in years, we were talking honestly, not in the shadow of competition or comparison. My sister, too, reached out, albeit tentatively. I honestly had no idea. I always assumed you were fine, that you were doing okay." "I didn't realize." "You didn't ask," I replied, smiling faintly. "And that's okay. But now you know." There was a warmth in my tone that had been absent for years, a softness that came from finally feeling understood, without having to shout or fight for attention. Visits followed, some awkward, some heartfelt, all tinged with a recognition that past behavior had been careless. I realized then that the revenge I had orchestrated wasn't about making them feel small or guilty. It was about creating a space where they couldn't ignore me anymore, where my life, my effort, and my ambition could no longer be dismissed. And yet, as I walked through my estate, through rooms I had meticulously designed, through spaces that reflected every decision, every sacrifice, every late night, I noticed a new realization forming. This house, these accolades, the national recognition, they were mine. They didn't need to be validated by anyone. My family's recognition was sweet, yes, but it was secondary to the truth I had built for myself. Over the next few weeks, the frantic energy of calls and texts slowed, replaced by more meaningful interactions. Conversations shifted from astonished exclamations to reflections on the past, apologies offered and accepted, and, most importantly, boundaries redefined. I realized that true victory wasn't in proving them wrong. It was in stepping fully into my own life, free from the need for constant validation. I hosted dinner one evening, not to flaunt my success, but to reconnect. Mom arrived, hesitant but smiling, and my sister followed, carrying a small gift, a quiet gesture of reconciliation. We sat in the living room, the same one that had once been a symbol of hidden achievement, and talked, not about milestones or wealth, but about life choices and mutual respect. I finally understood something essential. Revenge, when tempered with patience and precision, could teach lessons. But growth, forgiveness, and self-acknowledgement were infinitely more powerful. The family could see me now, truly, without the shadows of past dismissals clouding their perception. And more importantly, I could see myself clearly, without needing their approval to measure my worth. That night, after they left, I walked through the house alone. The city lights shimmered through the glass walls, reflecting in the polished floors. Every corner of this space was mine, built, curated, and perfected by my own hands. I had achieved recognition, yes, but I had also achieved something even more profound, peace with myself. For the first time, I felt completely free. Free from comparison, free from neglect, free from the silent dismissals of years gone by. The world, my family, and even my own expectations had been challenged, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more complete. Revenge had been sweet, but the real victory lay beyond it, in growth, dignity, and the quiet joy of knowing I had built a life that could never be ignored again.